I want to start today with a question that might sound a little ridiculous, but I promise it goes somewhere profound.
Okay.
I want you to look down at your hands. Right now. Go on, look at your keyboard. What do you see?
Most people, I think, see a tool, a necessity,
Yeah.
just a piece of plastic.
Right. For 99% of the world, that rectangle is just a fancy typewriter. It's a static input device. You hit a key, a letter appears on the screen, it is functional, it is necessary, but it's dumb. It's a mechanism for transcription. You have a thought, you press a button, the letter appears. But imagine, just for a second, a concert pianist sitting at a Steinway.
Okay.
Or, a lead guitarist holding a Fender Stratocaster.
It's a completely different relationship, a totally different connection.
Exactly. They aren't inputting notes. You don't see a pianist thinking, okay, now I need to move my index finger to C sharp.
Yeah.
The instrument is an extension of their nervous system.
The barrier is gone.
The barrier between the mind and the music is gone. They think of a sound and emotion, and the hands just make it happen. There is no translation layer.
And that is the difference between what our sources call mechanical friction and pure expression. And what we're looking at today is a group of people, developers, writers, data scientists, who believe the computer keyboard should feel exactly like that Stradivarius.
Today, we are doing a deep dive into Vim. And before you tune out thinking, oh, great, some niche tech talk about a text editor from the 1970s that I've never heard of, stick with us.
Please do.
Because the stack of sources we have today suggests this isn't really about software at all. It's about a philosophy of human-computer interaction that is, surprisingly relevant right now.
It's about the psychology of work, really. That's what's so fascinating.
We're looking at a comprehensive analysis of Vim's modal paradigm, some really interesting history regarding 1970s teleprinters and hardware.
Yeah, that stuff is wild.
Psychological studies on flow state by Csikszentmihalyi, and even reports on modern AI tools like Cursor.
And this is the key for me. We aren't just reading technical manuals today. We are trying to unpack why a tool with such a notoriously steep learning curve. I mean, people joke that they've been stuck in Vim for years because they can't figure out how to exit.
Right, the classic joke.
It's described by its users as a worship tool, and why, counterintuitively, the rise of artificial intelligence might actually make these archaic keyboard skills more valuable than ever.
I love that phrase, worship tool. It sounds so intense for a piece of software.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm Satosha.
And I'm Satoshi. But let's start with the problem. Why do we need to change how we type? What's wrong with the way we normally use a computer? I mean, I type emails, I write scripts, I use my mouse. It feels fine to me.
It feels fine because you're used to it. We all are.
Yeah.
But the sources describe this as the friction problem.
It's a friction problem.
It all comes down to a concept called interface transparency. In an ideal world, the tool disappears. When you are really in the zone writing code, writing a novel, analyzing data, you want to be in a state of pure thought. But standard computing interfaces are just full of speed bumps. And the biggest one, the mouse.
The mouse. But the mouse is intuitive. It's how we navigate. It's how we point and click.
It is intuitive, yes, but it is high friction.
Yeah.
The source material calls moving your hand to the mouse a micro-interruption. Think about your standard workflow. You're typing an email or some code, and you spot a mistake 3 lines up. What do you do?
Okay, let's walk through it. I stop typing. I lift my right hand off the keyboard. I reach for the mouse. I have to locate the cursor on the screen. Sometimes I have to wiggle it to find it,
I've done that.
Then I move the cursor to the mistake. I click, I highlight, I hit backspace. Then I move my hand back to the keyboard and try to find the home row again.
Exactly. When you list it out like that, it's a 10-step process. In real time, it might only take 2 seconds, but your brain notices.
Yeah.
You are breaking the feedback loop. You're switching from fine motor control typing with your fingers to gross motor control, moving your entire arm and shoulder. You are switching from a linguistic mode thinking in words to a spatial mode thinking in psychocoordinates on a screen.
So every time I touch the mouse, I'm essentially derailing my train of thought.
Even if just for a microsecond, yeah.
Even if it's just for a moment.
And in the realm of high-performance computing or deep work, those microseconds compound. They add up. It breaks what psychologists call the flow state.
Okay, let's unpack this flow state. We hear this term all the time. I was in the flow, I was in the zone. But scientifically, what are we talking about here?
Well, we have some great material here from the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Yeah.
He defines flow as a state of optimal experience where your self-consciousness just dissolves. The action becomes autotelic.
Autotelic, that's a great word. What is it?
It comes from the Greek auto, self, and telos, goal. It means the activity is performed for its own sake. When a jazz musician is improvising, they aren't thinking about the mechanics of the saxophone keys. The music just happens.
There's a merging of action and awareness?
Exactly. And Vim's is designed to achieve that specifically for text editing. The goal is to reduce interface friction to zero so that text manipulation happens at the speed of thought.
So instead of drag mouse, highlight, delete, the idea is that you think, delete that sentence, and it just vanishes.
Precisely. It gives the user what the research calls God mode control. In a standard editor like Word or Google Docs, you are reacting to the screen. You're kind of a passive observer manipulating a cursor. In Vim, you are commanding the text buffer.
That's a different mindset.
It's a subtle but profound shift in psychology. You aren't using the computer, you are directing it.
And it brings us back to that physical aspect you mentioned, the worship, because it sounds a little culty, but the sources mention proprioception.
Right. Proprioception. It's your sense of body position. It's how you can touch your nose with your eyes closed. You know where your hand is relative to your face.
Sure.
Musicians rely on this heavily to find notes without looking. And Vim users rely on the home row, the keys A, S, D, F and J, K, L, semicolon, specifically H, J, K, and L, right under your right hand.
So by never leaving the home row, you develop a physical certainty. You always know where you are.
Exactly. By keeping your hands anchored there, you develop a map in your mind. You aren't reaching for a mouse, you are staying centered. It's actually described as meditative in our notes because it minimizes physical fatigue.
How so?
You're using fine motor skills, just your fingers, rather than the gross motor skills of waving a mouse around your desk. Just be in the pocket.
And this is where the guitar metaphor comes in, right? The sources were very specific about comparing Vim to a guitar rather than a piano. Why that specific distinction?
This is crucial for understanding how Vim works, I think. A piano is linear. You press a key, you get a note. It's a one-to-one relationship. Most software is like a piano. If you type the letter D, a D appears on the screen. Simple.
But a guitar.
A guitar is modal. Think about the fretboard. Your left hand sets the mode, the chord shape, and your right hand executes the action, the strum. Nothing happens unless both hands coordinate. You have to set the context before you can make the sound.
And Vim is modal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Vim has modes. In standard software, you're always in insert mode. You're always typing. In Vim, the default is normal mode.
Normal mode.
And in normal mode, the keys don't type letters. They do things. If you press D, it doesn't type D, it means delete. If you press W, it means word. You have to explicitly switch modes to type.
And this is usually where people get frustrated. I open Vim, I try to type hello, and the computer starts beeping at me or deleting things because I didn't know I had to switch modes first. It feels like an extra barrier. Why would anyone want that?
It seems like a barrier to typing, but it removes the barrier to editing. And here's the insight. We spend way more time editing text than we do simply inserting it in a straight line.
Oh, that's a good point.
If you're coding or rewriting a script, you are jumping around, changing words, deleting lines, moving blocks of text. Vim optimizes for that 90% of the work. It is structurally harmonic, just like playing a chord on a guitar.
It sounds complicated, but I can see how that adds layers of control. But here's the thing that always gets me. If this is so superior, why is it so weird? Why are the keys so non-intuitive? Why is H left and L right? Why isn't it just arrow keys?
Now this is where it gets really interesting. We have to do a bit of software archaeology.
Okay.
The reason Vim is the way it is isn't because someone sat down last year and decided to make it difficult just to annoy you. It's an artifact of evolutionary constraints. We have to go back to 1971.
1971. So we're talking about the very dawn of Unix.
And we were talking about an era before screens were common. We're talking about the teleprinter. Imagine computing on paper.
Right, a teletype.
You're typing on this machine that looks like a massive, loud typewriter. You type a command, it sends a signal down a wire, and the computer sends text back, which is physically printed onto a roll of paper.
So no monitor, no glowing cursor, just ink and paper.
Done. And the connection speed, 10 characters per second. And paper is expensive. So imagine you want to edit a document. You can't just scroll up and look at it. It's printed on the scroll.
Wow.
You have to tell the computer, print line 4. It chatters away and prints line 4. You spot a typo. You have to tell it, substitute te for the.
So you had to be extremely brief. You couldn't be typing long, flowery sentences to the computer.
Exactly. Brevity was paramount. That's why the command to delete is just D. The command to substitute is S. This created a think before you print mentality. This lineage goes from an editor called ed to sed, which stands for stream editor and is still used today, and eventually to vi.
But then screens did come along, the visual revolution.
Yes, enter Bill Joy. He was a grad student at UC Berkeley in the late 70s, and he created vi, which stood for visual. He was working on one of the first video terminals, but, and this is the key constraint, he was working over a 300 baud modem.
300 baud. For the younger listeners, that is incredibly slow.
It is slower than you can read aloud. It's agonizing. If you wanted to redraw the whole screen, it would take seconds. The cursor would literally crawl across the glass. So the interface had to be efficient. You couldn't have an editor that constantly refreshed the display or had fancy menus. The brains of the editing had to be in the user's head. You sent minimal keystrokes to the mainframe to prevent that input lag.
So the difficulty of Vim was actually a brilliant solution to lag.
It was an adaptation, a response to severe bandwidth constraints. It was survival. And then there is the hardware itself. This is my favorite fact from the deep dive, the cocktail party fact.
Okay, lay on me.
The terminal Bill Joy used to write Vim was the Lear-Siegler 80M3A.
The 80M3A, it sounds like a piece of military hardware.
It's a legendary piece of kit.
Yeah.
Had this distinct clamshell design. But if you looked at a photo of its keyboard, suddenly everything about Vim makes perfect sense.
How so?
It didn't have arrow keys.
No arrow keys.
None. They didn't exist as a separate cluster like we have now. But painted on the H, J, K, and L keys were little arrows. H was left, J was down, K was up, L was right.
No way!
That's why Vim uses HJKL for navigation. It was literally the hardware layout Bill Joy had under his fingers.
That is wild. It's like discovering we drive on a certain side of the road because of Roman chariots. We're using HJKL because Bill Joy didn't have arrow keys in 1976.
And it gets even better. Look at where the escape key is on your modern keyboard. It's way up in the top left corner, right? We call it Siberia. It's a stretch to hit it with your pinky.
Yeah.
But in Vim, you have to hit escape constantly to switch from insert mode back to normal mode.
Yeah, that seems like a recipe for carpal tunnel. It's horrible ergonomics.
But on the ADM3A, the escape key was right next to the letter Q. It was where the tab key is today.
Well.
It was the easiest key to hit.
Oh, wow. So on the original hardware, this whole modal switching lay right under the pinky. It was ergonomically perfect.
Exactly. That's why today, almost every serious Vim user remaps their caps lock key to be escape. They're trying to reclaim that ergonomic efficiency that was lost when keyboard layouts changed.
So it's not just stubbornness, it's muscle memory from a machine that doesn't exist anymore. That is fascinating. But okay, let's move from the history to the actual playing of this instrument. You mentioned earlier that standard users memorize shortcuts like C-Trl-C or C-Trl-Davi, but Vim users learn a language. What does that mean?
This is the biggest mental shift, I think.
Yeah.
Standard shortcuts are just arbitrary combinations.
Yeah.
Why is C-Trl-Shift-K delete line in one app and search in another? You just have to memorize it. There's no underlying logic.
Right.
Vim's different. It has a grammar. It has verbs and nouns.
Give me the breakdown. How do you speak Vim?
Okay, so let's look at the syntax structure. It is usually count plus operator plus motion. The operators are your verbs. D is delete. C is change. Y is yank, which means copy.
Okay, simple enough. D for delete, dot C for change.
Then you have the motions, which are your nouns.
Yeah.
W is a word. W is the end of the line. P is a paragraph.
So you literally construct sentences to the computer.
Yes. If I want to delete two words, I don't hit backspace 20 times. I type D2W, delete dot two words. It's like a musical interval.
D2W. That's actually really intuitive when you explain it like that.
And it gets more powerful with text objects. These are like smart nouns. Imagine you are editing code or even writing a screenplay, and you have a string of text inside quotation marks, like print, hello world.
Okay.
And you want to change hello world to something else.
Usually I'd take my mouse, carefully click inside the quote, drag to the end, hoping I don't accidentally highlight the quote mark itself, hit delete. It's clumsy.
In Vim, the command is C. That stands for change inside quotes.
Sheep.
You type those three keys, and instantly the text inside the quotes vanishes, the quote marks remain, and you are placed in insert mode right between the quotes, ready to type. It's surgical.
That is fast. And I can see the language part now. Because if I know C is change and I learn a new noun, like which means end of paragraph, I automatically know contain change to the end of the paragraph.
Precisely. It's logarithmic learning. You aren't memorizing static commands. You are learning a vocabulary that you can compose on the fly. You are building sentences to talk to your text buffer.
Wow.
And then there is the virtuoso's trill, the dot command.
A dot, just the period key.
Yes. In Vim, the dot key repeats your last change. So let's say you need to change the word color to color in 5 different places in a file.
Okay.
You do it once. CW, change word, type color, hit escape. Now you just navigate to the next instance of color and hit dot. Navigate to the next one, dot. Navigate dot.
It creates a rhythm.
It's percussion, search, action, repeat. It feels less like typing and more like drumming. It's incredibly satisfying.
I can see why people get obsessed with this. I've heard of Vim golf. Is that a real thing?
Oh, it's very real. It's a sport.
Yeah.
The challenge is take text A, transform it into text B,
Yes.
using the fewest keystrokes possible.
Like golf strokes. Fewer is better.
Exactly. There was a case study in our notes about reordering CSS properties. In a normal editor, moving a line of code down requires selecting, cutting, moving your cursor, pasting. Maybe 5 or 6 chords or actions.
Yeah, at least.
In Vim-golf, you might do it in 3 keys. Or use a command like M+1 to just move the line down one. It trains your brain to look for structural patterns in the text. You stop seeing letters and start seeing the architecture of the document.
So you're not just editing, you're manipulating the structure. But clearly, this has escaped the lab. This isn't just for coding anymore, is it? The outline mentions the Vim-ified universalizing.
That's the thing. Once you learn this instrument, once you get used to playing the piano, typing with a mouse feels like playing piano with boxing gloves on.
I like that.
You want that control everywhere.
Yeah.
So developers have built tools to bring Vim bindings to everything.
Even the web browser. Because the web is inherently point and click. That seems like the last place this would work.
Especially the browser. There's a tool called Vimium. It allows you to browse the web completely without a mouse.
How do you click links, though? That seems impossible.
It's brilliant. You press the F key. Suddenly, every clickable link on the page gets a little yellow box with a 1 or 2 letter code like AD or JK. You just type AD and it clicks that link for you.
Whoa. So you can navigate complex dashboards like Jira or GitHub just by typing little letter codes.
Yes. And you use J and K to scroll up and down. J and K, capitalized to switch tabs. It turns the web into a read-only Vim buffer. You never have to leave the keyboard. It transforms the experience of reading online.
That sounds like a productivity hack for anyone, not just coders. What about managing files on your computer?
There are file managers like Ranger or Vifm. Instead of dragging and dropping icons, you navigate your file system using HJKL. They use something called Miller columns. So you see the parent folder, current folder, and child folder all at once.
And you can do batch operations?
Instantly. Visual selection to rename or move 100 files in a few keystrokes.
And speaking of data, I saw VisiData in the notes. This one looked really cool for anyone who lives in spreadsheets.
VisiData is amazing. It's a terminal tool for data analysis. Imagine Excel or Google Sheets, but controlled with Vim keys. You can load a CSV with millions of rows.
And it's fast.
Blazing fast.
Yeah.
And you want to see a frequency chart of a particular column. You press Shift plus F, boom, instantaneous histogram.
Just one keystroke.
One keystroke. You want to apply a change to 10,000 rows. You use the dot command just like in Vim. It brings that thought speed interaction to data science.
So we've established that this is a powerful, ubiquitous philosophy. But we have to address the elephant in the room, the big AI-shaped elephant.
It's a centaur question.
Right. If AI is getting so good at writing code, if I can just tell ChatGPT or Claude, hey, write me a website, do I really need to be a virtuoso at typing it? Doesn't AI make manual text editing obsolete?
This is the most fascinating part of the deep dive for me. The intuitive answer is yes, AI kills coding skills. If the machine does the work, the human doesn't need the skill.
It's logical.
But the sources argue the exact opposite. They argue that AI makes Vim more valuable, not less.
How? If the AI writes the code, why do I need to type fast?
Because the role of the developer is shifting. We are moving from being writers to being editors.
Writers to editors. Unpack that.
In the past, you sat down and wrote every line of code from scratch. That's generation. AI is now excellent at generation. It can spit out 50 lines of boilerplate code in a second. But is that code perfect?
Rarely. I mean, from what I've seen, it usually hallucinates something or uses an old variable name. It's close, but not quite right.
Exactly. It's 90% right. The job of the human is now to find that 10% that is wrong and fix it. That is editing. And what is Vim? It's an editor. It is explicitly designed for surgical precision.
I see where you're going. If I have a block of AI-generated code and I need to change one parameter inside a deeply nested function using a mouse to highlight that hallucination is slow and fiddly.
But using Vim, you can jump to the definition, delete till comma, and type the correction. You are performing surgery on the AI's output. The source material talks about the Centaur workflow, specifically with a new editor called Cursor.
Cursor is the new hotness in the coding world. It's an AI-native editor.
Right. And Cursor fully supports Vim mode. The workflow looks like this. You play a chord of AI generation CMD plus K to generate a function, but then you instantly switch back to Vim's normal mode for the fine-tuning.
So the AI provides the heavy lifting, the raw material, and Vim provides the chisel for the fine detail.
Exactly. And Cursor is even adding features like Copilot++ that try to predict where your cursor will go next, harmonizing with the user's movements like a musical accompaniment.
It sounds like a duet.
It is a centaur, half human, half machine.
Yeah.
And it goes even further. There's research into something called Vim-LM. The idea is that AI agents shouldn't just output raw text. They should output Vim commands.
Wait, what? So the AI would speak Vim?
Think about efficiency. If an AI wants to change a variable name in a huge file, currently it might rewrite the whole file. That's slow and expensive in terms of tokens. But if the AI just outputs the command, some percent's old Nick.
That's just a few bytes. It's tiny.
It's incredibly efficient. And it's deterministic. We're seeing agents like Claude using something called the modal context protocol to drive NeoVim directly.
So the future might be humans and AIs both using this 1970s keyboard language to communicate with the machine. That's kind of mind-bending.
Because it is the most precise language we have for text manipulation. It has survived the death of the teleprinter, the rise of the mouse, and now the rise of the LLM.
So what does this all mean for the listener? I mean, if they aren't a coder, should they go out and learn Vim tomorrow?
I think the lesson here is bigger than Vim. It's about interface transparency. Whether you are writing a novel, analyzing spreadsheets, or coding, you should ask yourself, is my tool fighting me? Am I thinking about the tool or am I thinking about the work?
It's about achieving mastery over your tools.
It is. Learning Vim, or even just learning the keyboard shortcuts for your favorite app, is an act of respect for your own time and your own mind. It's saying, I want to remove the barrier between my thought and the screen.
So the worship isn't about the software. It's a reverence for precision in a world of noise.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it.
Well, this has been a journey. From the paper constraints of 1971 to the AI-augmented Centaur workflows of 2026. The Vim user isn't a relic. They are the conductor of this digital symphony.
Batons firmly in hand.
I encourage everyone to try it, or at least maybe stop using your mouse for an hour and just see what happens.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you next time. I'm Satosha.
And I'm Satoshi.